if you know where things go, it's easy to clean up. It's when you don't know where things go that it builds up and it becomes overwhelming. So, getting the initial setup and structure and then training your brain continually to run it through that structure, it gives you so much peace and clarity.
Welcome to the Life Coaching for Mompreneurs podcast, where you will learn simple solutions to win at work without losing at home. Hi, my name is Martine Williams, and I'm your host and CEO, your Chief Encouragement Officer. And this podcast is your one-stop shop to creating a burnout-proof life and business by elevating your clarity, confidence, and courage. Friends, it's time to say goodbye to being the yes girl, to procrastinating on your goals and living in overwhelm. And it's time to say hello to creating healthy boundaries, healthy mindsets, and healthy habits so that you can achieve work-life harmony. Your next breakthrough starts here. This is the Life Coaching for Mompreneurs podcast. Let's do this. Well, hey friend, today's Turquoise Talk guest, you are going to love our conversation. We are talking about getting organized. And I know for some of you that might be a little triggering because you're like, I'm not organized. I fly by the seat of my pants. I feel overwhelmed when I think about organizing my physical and digital spaces. Today we're talking about those things. And my guest, Tracy Hoth, is amazing. And she gave us some real practical tips, like what are the only 5 digital files that you will ever need to run a smooth and profitable business. Love that. So she is just a delight to listen to. So let me tell you a little bit about her. She is a 17-year veteran professional organizer and certified life coach on a mission to empower coaches and online business owners to reclaim their time, to boost their confidence and maximize profitability through a streamlined and organized business. She hosts the globally ranked Organized Coach podcast and is the creator of Organized Coach Academy, where she helps coaches and online business owners become organized CEOs. So word of the day, organized. But we talk about like what are the main obstacles that she sees and where you should start organizing for the biggest ROI. So let's dive right into this episode so you can get started on this, friend. Well, welcome back, friends, to the podcast. I'm super excited about today's Turquoise Talk guest, Tracy Hoth. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Anytime I can talk about organization, I get super excited.
That's so awesome. And it's a loaded, word, right? And there's lots of emotions and thoughts that go into it. But so before we kind of dive into the meat of it, I'd love for you just to kind of share a little bit about you, your family, and how you got into this work that you're doing or how you became an entrepreneur.
Yes. And I think of myself not like I just wish I felt like an entrepreneur, but I'm always like, I want to go work for someone else and have them tell me what to do. But I've been doing this for 17 years, so I must just have a consistent stick to it. But I stayed home with my kids for 10 years and then decided I wanted to do something while they were at school. So I decided I was going to professional organize for people because I would see friends that I had would say like, oh, I can't go do that with my kids because I need to clean or I need to organize or, they would always be doing that. I'm like, okay, we can fix that. I can help with that. And so I started organizing in people's homes and then I started speaking on the topic of organization and productivity. And then in 2018, I got life coach certified. So then I kind of started moving online and combining the practical steps of organizing with the mindset and helping people organize their homes without me, which at the time I kind of thought that was impossible, but it was so cool to watch how they could do it.
Yeah.
And then I shifted into, when I had to learn how to organize my own business online, I just had to really go back to the steps and it was frustrating and it took a lot of work to figure out like what were some simple ways I could do that. So then I started helping businesses organize their business online, the digital side of it, the processes behind the scenes type stuff.
It's so needed. It is so needed. I know you wouldn't have a business if you didn't realize it was so needed, but I think it's one of those things like as an entrepreneur, you're like, yeah, I need to do that, right? And I'm going to do that one day. But it's like you're moving so fast and trying
Yes.
to, be the face, be the brand, do the coaching or whatever their service is. And like the back end is just suffering greatly.
I know. And we were just talking about that. Like, what is going to get people to stop and do it? Because you will eventually either burn out because you can't keep up with all the scrambling because it's not organized, or you'll bottleneck your own growth
Mm,
because you're spending so much time trying to find what your team needs or doing processes that aren't streamlined or efficient. And
yeah.
so it's one of the two, but yet it's so hard to stop and
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of the same thing like the clients that I work with. It's, burning out and helping them to reverse burnout, helping them to really live in a place of their true authentic self, understanding their strengths. And it is that slowdown. Like as entrepreneurs, we are like, fast and furious, moving forward, and the slowdown feels counterproductive. Like I
Right.
was just talking to a client yesterday, and she was saying, I know I need to hire help, but like that's going to take time. I'm going to have to stop and teach her. I'm like, yes, it is. It's a both and. Yes, it's going
Yes.
to take time and it's going to set you up for so much more growth because there are things that only you can do that you need to be spending your time and energy on. So it's the same thing with organization.
Right. And I think of it like getting organized, doing the bigger chunk of the work is like a project. So think of it like a project. And I'm doing the 12-week year.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I pick three top priorities that'll move me toward my vision.
Mhm.
And one of your 12-week years could be one goal would be to get organized and treat it as a project. You're going to really focus on it. You're going to work on it. And then you'll maintain after that. But if you think of it like that, it becomes less overwhelming and less huge. If you just think, okay, I'm going to really go into this, I'm going to learn this skill, I'm going to set my business up, and I'm going to focus on it for 12 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. I love the 12-week year. It's a great book. If you have not read that, I'll put the link to it in the show notes. It is a really great book. So, what does getting organized mean? Like we say this, like I'm going to get organized, like I'm going to get my systems in place, but I think it can be such a broad term that can really make you feel overwhelmed. So, for you, like how would you simply or simplify that down to what does get organized really mean?
Organization means to know what you have and be able to find it when you need it.
Okay.
So super simple. It doesn't have to look like someone else. It doesn't have to be color coded. It doesn't have to, be something specific. It's if you and your brain can create something that you know what you have and you can find it. Because that's the whole goal
Yeah.
is to find it when you need it and stop wasting time and stop feeling that stress in your body and to feel confident because you know where it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Whether it's online, digital, which I feel like is the way or been the way of the future for so long. I'm still a paper girl, so I do still have like my file folders and my binders and things like that, but I'm a little bit of a hybrid. Do you
Yeah.
find that with you or your clients? Do you find that people are a little bit of both?
Yeah, I think it depends. I think the really younger generation is like my kids,
Yeah.
they're 21 to 26, and I think they are not paper at all, So it's so cool seeing them. I'm like, I want to be more like you. Where is that? Where do you keep that? And they're
Mhm.
so organized. And so it's so fun to see that. But they have so much less stuff too, like
Yeah.
digital stuff,
Yeah.
things that they need to keep.
Yeah. So true. So someone's listening today and they know this is a problem, right? Whether they're most of the women that listen are entrepreneurs and they just don't know where to start. It all just
Mhm.
feels very overwhelming. So for them to, I almost feel like to give them like the quickest like dopamine hit of I'm moving forward, I'm making progress. Like where should they start just to get that instant return on investment?
Yes. Well, I think there's two questions to ask yourself,
Okay.
and this could be with anything, but when you think about, let's just say business or your online business, to think about the pain point, like what is causing you the most pain? And
Hmm.
maybe it's time. You're not able to find the things that you need and you're wasting a lot of time. So then I think start with your digital files. Just get your digital stuff organized on your computer so that you have that
Hmm.
evidence that you're organized and you can find things that you need. Maybe it's efficiency in a process that you're using. You're not efficient in the process. If you could just get one process
Mm.
streamlined and documented and practice that, then do that. So wherever your pain point is, the other thing I like to look at is where could you get a quick win?
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe we'll talk about digital organization. Maybe that's just getting your 5 folders set up, or maybe it's I'm in love with an organized bookmarks bar. Maybe it's having your bookmarks bar organized. Like people just don't know what they're missing.
Yeah.
when when you have that organization and you can find everything you need and you could shut all your tabs and feel complete peace because you have your bookmarks bar organized, then that might be what you need.
Yeah. That's a really great question. And again, it requires us to slow down long enough to really think about where is that angst coming from, right? Like, where
Hmm.
is that discontentment in my organization coming from? And how can I just, and maybe it's just an hour. I also think there's a lot of like all or nothing thinking that comes into processes like this. Like, if I can't finish the whole house, if we're talking about physical
Yes.
stuff, then
Yeah.
I'm just not going to do anything. Or if I can't do like, I'm thinking about my Dropbox folder and my Google Doc folders. And I'm like, okay, if I can't do all of them, it just feels like a waste of time, which is so untrue. It's such a thought error that we have. But do you find people kind of get into that space where they're like, oh my goodness, it's going to take me a whole weekend or 2 weeks to do this. So I'm just going to keep putting it off.
Right. And it might take that long, but
Yeah.
I like to just break it down. So when I'm thinking about your digital space and organizing your files, we'll talk about the 5 folders, but then break that down. Like your documents, you could sort your documents one day for
Hmm.
30 minutes and maybe come back the next day for 10 minutes, whatever, till you finish your documents. And then you actually have finished something. And then maybe you sort your desktop and then you sort your downloads. And then, so you just keep sorting slowly until you have all the sorting. It's all in your 5 files. It all makes sense. And then you go to your Dropbox and then you go to your Google Drive or, wherever, but you
Yeah.
just do a little
Yeah.
bit at a time
Yeah.
in an area at a time. And then you actually have some win and excessively celebrate every time you spend any amount of time. I've been practicing that this week and talking to my students about that. We are excessively celebrating and getting dopamine built up inside of us as we do little wins like this.
Yeah, it's so important. Like I think as the women you probably that you work with or clients you work with and me too, is they're ambitious, right? And it's like this feeling of never enoughness or like I'm moving so forward that I don't think about what I just did and really
Right.
celebrate that accomplishment. Like I just cleaned out a whole inbox, right? Or I
Yeah,
just those little micro wins are so important to celebrate along the journey. And I think as women, we don't celebrate enough.
I
For
know.
sure. For sure.
Yeah.
So this is just kind of a side note, but do you have a favorite like organizational system for digital documents? Like, do you prefer Dropbox over Google Drive, or do you have a whole nother software that you recommend, or does it matter?
It doesn't matter. And I always say if there's one place, so I use the wonderful one or the power of deciding in one place, as long
Okay.
as you have decided your one place. And that could be Google Drive, could be Dropbox, OneDrive, your computer. Like if you don't have anybody that gets to your stuff, just do it on your computer to start
Mhm.
with. Get the one place decided and then go to that place and start organizing.
Yeah. I'm like thinking through my inbox and my files right now, my computer and the disk. Like I do not love Dropbox. I liked it at first, but now I don't love it. But the thought of like moving all of that over to another space can feel very, very overwhelming.
Well, and once you start that and you are just transferring the files over, if you have your structure set up, let's say you're going to move it to Google Drive,
Mhm.
then that would be your focus. You're just going to get those things moved over there. But yeah, one space. And that just relieves so much decision fatigue, so much energy that it takes
Mm.
to think, okay,
Yeah.
is it over here? Is it over there? Is it on my computer? Is it in my Canva? That's a whole nother story.
I feel like that's a daily, not a daily, but definitely a weekly thing. Like, is it in Dropbox? I know it's in a folder. I've done pretty good
Yeah.
about the folders, but like I have some here, someone's on my hard drive. Oh man, I need you, Tracy. I need you.
Yes, and it's just training our brain over and over. Nope, Tracy, that goes into your drive. It does not go here. It does not. Don't do it the easy way and just download it to your computer or make sure you're cleaning up your, because I a lot of times will be in the middle of a project. I'll download
Yeah.
something to my computer, but I know where it goes. And I like to relate it just real life to walking in your house, you put everything down on your island or bar or whatever, and you drop stuff there. That's your drop zone.
Yeah.
But if you know where things go, it's easy to clean up. It's when
Yeah.
you don't know where things go that it builds up and it becomes overwhelming. So, getting the initial setup and structure and then training your brain continually to run it through that structure, it gives you so much peace and clarity.
Yeah. So you've mentioned five folders a couple of times. Is
Yes.
this like part of your system, like how what you teach? Tell us a little bit about the five folders because that seems very simple.
Yes, so simple. And so this is what I recommend. And it's like a flow chart. Is that what it is? A flow chart where it comes down through. So
Yes.
when you think about things, it's either home or business on your computer. So most of us have a home and a business on our
Right.
computer, and then it flows into one of those two places. And then from business, there's five folders that everything pretty much everyone I've worked with fits into those five folders. The first thing is operations. That's anything behind the scenes. The
Hmm.
second folder is marketing. That's anything outward facing that people see. And then the third one is my content. That is anything you've created, collaborations, speaking, like your programs all would go in there. And then education, which is everything that somebody else has done, your certifications and your collaborations and all, or not collaborations, but your coaching programs and freebies off the internet that you've downloaded. And
Hmm.
then clients. So operations, marketing, my content, education, and clients. Those five folders, pretty much everything fits into.
Okay. Okay. That's awesome. I love that.
It's so simple, right?
It
And then
is.
you're like, okay, now my brain knows it's one of those five. I even use those same folders on my email, like in my email. I have
Yeah.
due today, pending, and those five folders. And so now my brain, again, it's like training it. Oh, it's in there. Oh, that's in there. And everything stays organized and I can find it. I know what I have. I know where it lives and I can find it.
I also just love like, because I mean, I know at sometimes my desktop, when I used to just, I didn't know where to put it. So I would just save it to the desktop because I knew I could find it there the easiest. Like it
Right.
gets so cluttered looking, right? And so to think like even my inbox having five folders or my computer desk, my desktop
Yeah.
having the five folders, it just removes some of that stress of feeling like I have all of these things, like having 20 tabs open, right? And we all
Right.
do that. But like if you just would get out of them, and focus on
Yes.
the one, it does feel better. It doesn't feel as cluttered. Like walking into your closet, it feels cluttered. I don't think people realize the impact of our environment
Yes.
on our productivity, on how we feel about ourselves as business owners. And your screen is one of them. If it has stuff
Right.
all over the place, it's like, oh my goodness.
Yes. And think of just the confidence in that, having your five folders. And on my drive, I make those colored just for fun. Like add a color to them. I put a one in front of them and a two and a three, four, five. So they're always in the same order. And so if you do that on your computer as well, you just keep using that file structure, it gives you confidence. You can see that as evidence that you're organized. And then it changes everything just in how you show up to sell and how you show up when you talk about your business and stuff because you feel so confident because you have that
Yeah.
set up in the background.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a mindset piece to this that I think I would love for you to kind of talk to a little bit about what they're saying to themselves as I'm not an organized person, right? Or like I know
Mhm.
for me, like I'm not a disorganized person, but also people who say I'm not creative, right? It's just not helpful or useful to say those things to yourself when you're trying to become more creative or become more organized. It's just not
Right.
helpful. So tell me some of those. That's, I mean, like you and I are in that work, right? Because we're
Right.
coaches
Yeah.
and something that we work on ourselves. But for most people, they don't realize the power of those thoughts and the power of their mindset on things like organization. So can you speak to that a little bit? Hey, friend, let's talk. It's time to book your clarity call. We are going to spend 1 full hour focused on you. A clarity call isn't about pressure. It's about possibilities. It's about you. You having a space to talk through what's on your heart and mind, you walking away with a clear vision and practical next steps, and you feeling confident in what's next and how to get there. You don't need to have it all figured out. That's my job. All you need to do is show up and we'll figure it out together. This is the best hour you can invest in yourself right now. Not in 6 months from now, not next month, right now. And don't just take my word for it. Here's what one of my coaching clients had to say after working together.
Working with Martine helped my confidence in starting and growing a new business. I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but I wasn't quite sure how to accomplish it. Martine helped me work through my ideas based on the results of my ProScan, and having weekly calls really helped me stay focused and working toward my goal. I highly recommend working with Martine for those who want to grow their business or who are just getting started. Having that focused time to work and work together is priceless.
That transformation, it starts with one conversation. It's time to stop spinning your wheels and start making real progress. So head right now to martinewilliams.com or in the show notes and grab your private clarity call spot on my calendar before they're gone. And since I personally monitor my inbox, if you don't see a time slot that fits your calendar, just send me an email at martinewilliams.com with 3 times that do work, and I will make it work for you. All right, friend, let's get back to the show.
Yes. And that's the first part. I always think in my program, Organized Coach Academy, we look at our mindset, we look at our computer, and we look at our processes. Those are the 3 parts. But starting with your mindset, and a simple way to do that is just to ask yourself, why is it not organized right now? And all the thoughts will come up.
The
And
power of the question, right?
yes. So you'll see all those thoughts. And then you can just, do this one training where it's just the picture of inside your mind. It's all scribbles and like little emojis everywhere and all that. And then you just practice loosening up those thoughts. And that's why I like to start with mindset. Let's look at what you're believing and let's look at what you are open to see. Because maybe, and I just talked to a client about this, maybe you are more organized than you think you are.
Mm,
Are you open to seeing that?
mm,
And then we move into the little simple things like putting those 5 files in place, folders in place. And then you're building that evidence like, oh, yeah, I am. And even looking to different areas of your life. Sometimes people just don't realize, oh, I am pretty organized. Like I
mhm,
do shopping or, make meals or plan my meals the same for a long time or at work. If they're
mhm,
still working a corporate job or a job, they're organized or something with their kids or volunteering. Like there are places that I bet you're pretty organized that you can pull from. But
mhm.
yeah, it's loosening those thoughts up. And now I'm adding custom GPTs into each of my modules. And my first one is Mindy, the mindset mentor. And so it's so fun. People are going in there and she's like walking them through using my frameworks to help them with their mindset and to create a plan on how to, and someone just messaged me this morning just about what they learned while they were playing with Mindy and talking with her. It's so fun. So it's making the experience so much more fun.
Like gamifying it,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it can feel like drudgery, or it can, drudgery, or it can feel like this is just how it's always going to be. It's the way I've always been. And
Yes.
so to have those, I know for me, sometimes it is just like finding that powerful question to ask
Hmm.
so I can identify, right? And sometimes we
Yeah.
just don't know the question to ask.
Yes.
The power of your answers comes from the power of the question. And so finding those questions and having Mindset Mindy help, I think is really
Yes.
cool.
Yeah. Well, and people, if it's not your skill, I always think about this for myself too. If that's not a natural skill or someone didn't teach that skill to you, a lot of times people are like, well, I should be able to do this. I should know how to do
Oh, the
that.
shoulds. Yeah.
Yes. And so when you just let someone show you, just like the simplicity of the five files, I had someone with ADHD and she was like, Tracy, that actually makes sense to my brain. Then
Mhm.
she gets up at 2 a.m. and couldn't sleep. So she went to her computer and started sorting files. And she was like, that was the best thing I've ever done. It felt amazing. And I loved it. And I'm like, who would have ever thought that you would be saying that you had fun
Mhm.
organizing your files? And
Yeah.
so it's possible. It's
Yeah.
possible.
Got to believe it's possible. Got to believe you can
Yes.
change your thoughts about it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Any other like just obstacles that you see, like as someone's listening and they're like, okay, I'm gonna implement these five files. Like, what obstacles do you see come up for people while they when they start this process that maybe we could not warn them about, but just bring to their attention maybe? So they're
Yes.
not
Okay.
surprised, right? They're not surprised when this resistance comes, or they're not surprised when this obstacle comes up. Like it's just part of the process. Nothing's gone wrong. It's just
Right.
part of the process.
Well, the first thing that came to my mind when you said that was distractions. So they're going to see some other coach or trainer that uses some software
Oh
program or
yes.
some amazing account management system. And they're going to be like, oh, that's what I need. And their eyes are going to, oh, trans, walk toward it. I'm like, no, stay away. Don't add anything new. Don't add any new software. Get organized first and decide, okay, now that I've gotten organized, I know what my structure is. I've been practicing this skill. Then you can decide, okay, I want to use this for project management. I want to transfer. Let's say you hate Google Drive and you want to use, I don't know, Airtable or something. You can transfer to that later, but right now, just use what you're using now, get organized, and then make decisions like that later. But I think that's one of the biggest things is just the
Yes.
distraction because then all of a sudden you're spending all your time learning that software instead of actually decluttering and organizing your files. But
It's so
it's out
true.
there and it is real. The temptation
It
is
is.
everywhere.
It is like I'm just sitting here like I'm thinking of that there's a meme or a photo that was out there about this woman who was starting to organize or declutter her closet, and she's got like this mask on, she's got these scarves on, and she's looking on her phone, she's like reminiscing through her clothes versus like actually doing the work, right? Because of all the distractions. Like I came in here to declutter and now I'm wearing half the clothes, or it's just
Yeah.
really, I know you know what I'm talking about, but I'm just
Yeah.
visualizing as you're going through your files, it can be so easy to look at that file and go, oh, I forgot about that. Let me just start reading that, or let me just start editing that file because now I think differently. Like all of those are distractions that can come into play versus let's just get it set up.
Yes.
And that's like the next step, right? Or the next level, but get through level one before you try to go to level two.
Yeah. And I have five organizing steps that I've used since 2008, like 17 years ago when I started organizing, and they spell the word spasm. So it's super goofy. And next time you have a muscle spasm, you're going to be like, Tracy, how do I organize? But it's sort, purge, assign homes, set limits, and maintain. So when you have your five files set up and you're sorting files into that, that's not the point where you purge and you open
Yeah.
and you reminisce and you look at them. No, your job in the sorting phase is to sort as fast as you possibly can, get them in there, get it done. And then the next step is to purge. So you're going to go into each of your file folders then. And that's when you can rename your files to make them easier to find or to delete things. These steps work for organizing your physical space, organizing your digital space, organizing your projects, your time, and even your mind. And
Mm.
so when you're looking at time, you sort everything out of your head, all your to-dos, all your thoughts, all your, whatever projects. And then you look at, can I delete anything? Can I delay something? Can I do it or can I delegate? And so you have that purge step is where now everything's in one place. You can go back through it and make decisions on it.
Yeah. Yeah. We just want to have it all done. We just want to do it now and like get it all done. And I love just thinking about and celebrating after each one of those steps, how much better you're going to feel at the end of each of those steps. And if that's the thought, you just have to choose to think, this
Right.
is hard and I'm going to feel better at the end of each of these days because I know I'm making progress. I know for some that are listening, like it makes me think of my dad, like his desk, I remember as a little girl, still to this day chaos, but he knew exactly where everything was, right? But if someone was to come in and try to help him, they don't know where anything is. So I know as business owners, you might be in a season where maybe you're wanting to hire a VA this year, or maybe you're wanting to build a team out. This is the foundation of making that super easy, right? To bring someone onto the team.
Yeah, that's so good because then that again makes me think that's your vision is to have someone on your team. So
Mm.
this 12 weeks, you're going to really focus on getting organized. Maybe the next 12 weeks, you're going to be like working on your SOPs and a certain processes that you're going to establish so that that
Mhm.
person you can hire. And then a year later, your future self is going to look back and be like, look what you did for me. This is amazing. But
Yeah.
it's just taking little by little.
Yeah. Little bite-sized chunks.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier burnout. We kind of talked about that at the very beginning, and I do talk about this on the podcast. So I always like to ask my guests if you've experienced burnout before. If you have, how did it show up for you? I know for some people, it's they lose like their love and feeling for their business, or some they're like physically exhausted. Some it's like all the symptoms. So I would just love for you to share, if you don't mind, like if you've experienced it, what it felt like for you, either physically or emotionally, and then how did you kind of work your way out of it?
Ooh, that is something I've never thought of myself as experiencing burnout. I think
Okay.
I'm in an easier stage than most people because my kids are grown and I don't have a lot. I'm a person who can say no pretty easily. So
Okay.
I feel like I haven't overcommitted myself. But one thing I do experience is the ups and downs of entrepreneurship.
Mm.
So I don't know that that's burnout necessarily, but I am, if I'm in a down where I'm like doubting and hating everything and
Wanting to
is
go get a
that
job and
burnout?
punch the clock and someone just tell me what to do. Like you mentioned at the very beginning, I'm like, I think
Yeah.
every entrepreneur has felt that at some point in their journey. Like it would be
Yes.
so much easier to just go and punch a clock and come home and not have to have my brain running 24/7, 365.
Well, and me, I've never worked for corporate. So people are like, I hated it. I needed to get out of there. And I'm like, ooh, it sounds kind of fun. I want to try it. But I think one thing that's helped me, and this is really important for people to think through, I guess. But when I got coach certified in 2018, thankfully, this beautiful friend that was in the group, she became my friend. She asked myself and another person if we wanted to meet every week. And so
Yeah.
the three of us have met, and it started out as four, and then one person shifted her priorities. But the three of us have met every week as much as possible since 2018. And so you think about that. Like, I think that's helped
Yeah.
having someone to
Yeah.
talk it through with, having someone to walk you through when you're feeling in that down stage. But the other thing I do is I just be mad for a few days and then I keep going. I
Yeah.
binge on a show or, complain to someone and then keep
Yeah.
going.
Community is so important. And I talk about that a lot on the podcast as far as like finding your people and the importance of getting the help when you need it, getting the support you need when you need it, whether it is just having like a couple of friends or peers meeting together or investing
Yeah.
in a program like what you have or
Yeah.
one-on-one coaching like I have. And so it's like just realizing that entrepreneurship can be very lonely when you're not taking the initiative to build those connections with people because
Yes.
when you're in and of your own mind, you can't see your blind spots, which I'm sure your two ladies show you all the time and you show
Yeah.
them, right? They do help you, they pick you up, right? When you've fallen, when a launch doesn't do like you thought it was going to, or you didn't sign as many clients as you wanted, or whatever. Like it's just someone to say, I see you and I support you. It's
Yes.
so important to have that as
Right.
mothers and as entrepreneurs. And I love that you brought that up because it's probably has been the thing that has helped to sustain you all these years is having that support there.
Yes. Yes. I can't even imagine what I would have done
Mm-hmm.
without that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
You probably would have gone to corporate.
yes, I wouldn't be talking to you right now.
Yes, yes. And not that corporate is bad. We're not saying anything about corporate. There are people who are listening who work a full-time job and building their, their side hustle or building out another business. So there's nothing
Right.
wrong. We need people on both sides. We need people who are in
And
corporate and we need entrepreneurs.
50-50 on both sides,
Yes,
Like,
yes, for
yeah.
sure, for sure. So as we wrap up, tell us what you're most excited about in your business. Like, how can they connect with you? What do you have going on that they can kind of plug into?
Yeah, so my Organized Coach Academy is where I help people get organized in those three areas. And right now we have I'm adding in the custom bot. So I'm making the whole experience easier, more fun, and faster. It's going
Okay.
to help you get things organized faster. So that's been very exciting. And I'm also on Organized Coach podcast. So I talk a lot on there as well. And if someone's listening and they don't have a business or their life is more challenging than their business, I
Mm,
have Organized Life Academy where we are focused on decluttering and implementing routines in our life.
love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll put the links to all the things in the show notes for them. If you could leave them with just one final thought or word of encouragement to all the mompreneurs out there, what would you tell them today?
Ooh, you're more organized than you realize. So, what does it look like to be open to that?
Mm, great question. I love your questions.
Mm.
You have great questions for us to answer. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This was super fun. We could talk probably for another couple of hours, but I appreciate you taking the time to
Mhm.
come on and share with all of them. They're going to go get those files. Y'all create those 5 files. Just get started.
Yes. And there is a 5 file class that I teach. It's on my website at
Okay.
simplysquaredaway.com. So they can go on there and get that class. If they can't remember what they are, they can go look at that class.
Awesome. All
Yes.
right.
Thanks, Martine, for
Yeah.
having
Thank you so
me.
much. All right, friends. We'll catch you on the next episode. Well, that's a wrap, friends. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. I really hope it met you right where you are and gave you some encouragement for your day. Could you do me the biggest favor and leave me a rating and review? Seriously, it's the best way for you to support the show. And while you're there, be sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. Thanks again. And until next time, I am believing in you always.